It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag Utah Jazz.
Everybody's got a scrapbook. No one cares what your resume was before you got here. I don't care how many points you scored in high school. I don't care what you were ranked coming out of high school. It doesn't matter where you played in college. It doesn't matter how many wins you got in college. It doesn't matter how many points you scored in college. Your Instagram followers mean nothing to me. This is a job, and we want to win, and I recognize that we're in the developmental stage of our team, but this is a profession, and it needs to be treated as such.
There's the head coach, Will Hardy, after the Utah Jazz lose to the New Orleans Pelicans 128-121. They sat 5 key guys, 4 starters, all the veterans, their best young player in Walker Kessler, and they still led in the middle of the fourth quarter, PK, but defensively, 52% shooting, 128 points. It was just too much. Pelicans go on a run in the fourth quarter and win the game.
I was surprised he was so negative afterward.
He's invested in coaching them up, whoever plays.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I have to mask the fact that we wanted to lose, so we played guys knowing that we would lose. And we sat the nucleus of our team. So I'm going to be tough guy and act like, oh, man, we're coaching them and we're going to try to win. If we put 2 muskrats and a beaver and 2 lions out there, we're just going to battle. I thought it was all staged.
They are actually playing better and winning more, despite the fact they are sitting guys on a semi-regular to regular basis here. They've got, they're 5-9 in the last 14 games. They should be 500 or a little better than that if they were playing their guys, you'd think.
Okay, but so what? What's that have anything to do with it?
He is invested because he's been coaching them up. Because at the start of the year, they were getting blown out. The other team was laughing on the bench, and that seems to have all stopped. They've gotten a lot better. So he's putting time, effort, energy into all of this, even though he is getting undercut because, they sit Kessler and then they give up a bunch of layups. Presumably, he would have taken away some of those layups.
Okay, so who's going to prevent the layups? So why crack on these guys?
Yeah.
I felt like, it was what he intended to do. Like, at 5 o'clock. I mean, who are you going to blame for giving the layups? Filipowski? Are you defensive stopper all of a sudden? Micah, what's his face?
I guess if they were in the right place at the right time and got scored over, you can live with that. But getting beat one-on-one and guys not rotating when they're supposed to.
Who's going to stop Zion Williamson? You haven't told me the solution.
I don't think you're going to stop him. I think
then what's the point of criticizing these dudes?
You're going to slow him down a little bit, and it was a 7-point game. Because if you don't criticize them, they won't get better. This is acceptable. You'd have been better if you'd been a little more focused.
Is Micah, what's his name, going to be on the team?
I won't guarantee that anybody's going to be on the team.
You wouldn't?
No.
I would guarantee that Isaiah Collier's gone on the team. I would guarantee you that Filipowski's on the team.
You don't think any of these guys could go in a trade? I mean, obviously some of them
impossible.
are going to be.
They'll never go in a trade, ever. Never. No, I do not. There's no way that they will be traded. Absolutely not.
The Jazz are back at it tonight against the Detroit Pistons, who won 9 of their last 10 games. They are playing great, so the Jazz presumably can afford to play a few more of the bigger names, the core of the team. Tip-off set for 7 o'clock. Pregame at 6 with Jake Scott and Tim Lacombe.
Hashtag NBA.
Phoenix continues to falter. Minnesota beats them 116-98. Where will the Wolves end up in the draft lottery? Well, we watched the Jazz draft lottery odds, or will they be in the lottery at all?
They won't.
The Jazz have the Wolves pick, so where they finish of some interest to the Jazz. With that win, they are 8th in the West, solidly in the middle of the playoff, or the play-in, but still time to play their way out of that and get up into the top 6. The Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets, 2 of the top teams, the second-place team actually in each conference right now, squared off in Boston. And the Celtics, who lost to Cleveland, the top team in the East, get this one. Almost faltered late, gave up a run, but they win at 110-103. 3 players ejected during a third-quarter scuffle as the Thunder beat San Antonio 146-132. Oklahoma City still running away at the top of the West. And Jimmy Butler's been sued for failing to pay $260,000 in rent and leaving $127,000 in damages to a luxury home he'd been leasing in Miami while playing for the Heat before being traded last month. He sat out, and the Warriors got beat this weekend. They'd been rolling there for a while. DJ and PK.
Hashtag college basketball.
I mean, that was ultimate tale of two halves, for us. First half, our defense held us down while we were trying to figure out, how to get in some kind of an offensive rhythm. And in the second half, our guys, attention to detail coming out of halftime where we just said, hey, get to the rim. They're going to take away the three-point line. They don't have a ton of shot blocking. Just get to the rim. And we had a determined group that did that, and that was the difference in the game. And until that little bonanza they had at the last couple minutes of the game, I thought our defense was really good in the second half too. So it's a hard team to play. Javon Small's a really good player, and so it was a good response after kind of a slugfest first half.
There's Kevin Young after BYU blows out West Virginia by 21, 77-56, the sluggish part of the first half. Scoreless for 6 minutes, 3 points in 9 minutes. But West Virginia couldn't run away. They only had 19 points in the first 20 minutes. So locked down BYU, 6 straight wins. Got to be feeling pretty good, don't they?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, right where they need to be to get into the tournament.
Coaches always screaming, if you're going to miss shots at some point, you got to be playing defense, and they were. So another W, and now they're off to Iowa State for a big game that'll decide who gets a double bye in the conference tournament, and they'll play tomorrow. Utah State, it's gone better. They got blown out on the road again, blown out at Boise midweek, blown out at CSU on Saturday, 93-66. This is the worst week of the season. It's not close.
Yeah, I agree.
They're still looking for win number 25. They are 24-6. They have a bye midweek, so they don't play again until they get Air Force on the weekend for Senior Day. The Utes blew out Arizona State in the second half. They win 99-73, and UVU still in first place in the WAC, 100-59 over SUU. They are now 13-1 in the WAC. Weber State plays tonight. They're hosting Northern Colorado. They lost to Idaho in overtime, 81-79. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
This is your kind of trade, PK. Deebo Samuel, 1 year left on his deal, chip on his shoulder. 49ers send him to Washington. Do the Commanders get the best out of him? Does he make some big plays for them? He's got the speed to score from anywhere on the field. A 5th-round draft pick. That's not a very high price for the Commanders.
He's your guy, man.
Yeah,
You love this dude.
I do like Deebo Samuel. He's made a bunch of plays.
Yeah.
Now, he's had some injuries, and he hasn't made as many plays last year and a half. So
Rats.
Maybe there's a little risk there, but I think it's a risk worth taking for Washington.
I thought you would.
The Rams agree to terms on a restructured deal with Matthew Stafford. So all the rumors about where he might go and his agent looking around to see what the market is, he's staying with the Rams. They talked to the Raiders and the Giants. Now the Raiders and Giants must figure out something else. Giants have reportedly turned their attention to Aaron Rodgers. That should end well. Stay in New York. Switch teams. Stay in the same stadium. DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
Texas raising football ticket prices $13 per game next season. The Longhorns will have nearly $30 million in new costs, about 200 new scholarships across all sports. With a House settlement coming into effect, the increased scholarships will cost about $9.2 million, and the school plans to pay $20.5 million annually to its athlete, as allowed under terms of the proposed antitrust lawsuit settlement. All of this to say, PK, the cost of poker just keeps going up in college football.
Yeah, then everybody raises their prices.
The NCAA Football Rules Committee has proposed a timeout to be charged whenever medical personnel enter the field to evaluate players after the ball has been spotted for the ensuing play in an attempt to get faking injuries out of the game. Teams without timeouts to be charged a 5-yard penalty.
So just fake it before the ball's spotted?
Yes.
Correct.
If you can get them on the field before the ball is spotted. The North Carolina Tar Heels, with Bill Belichick coaching the team, will likely be the subject of HBO's Hard Knocks off-season series. No teams in the NFL were interested in being the subject of the offshoot of the original hit series. HBO will follow Belichick's team through the offseason as the Tar Heels get coached by the legend.
As a coach who never did Hard Knocks while he was in the NFL, so.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
File this under predictable, PK. Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred is considering a petition filed in January by Pete Rose's family to have Major League Baseball's all-time hit leader posthumously removed from baseball's ineligible list. When will he get into the Hall? Well, not while he's alive.
Well, he's dead, isn't he?
Pete has passed away, and look at this. The process has started, and Rob Manfred is considering it. Maybe he'll reject it. Maybe they still won't let him in.
Well, and he got pardoned by our president.
So, Cooperstown, here comes Pete Rose's family. Stay tuned. DJ and PK.
Hashtag RSL.
Throwing for Catranis. No Ojeda back to Catranis on the sideline. Catranis bends the ball in towards the top. And 6 headed in for an own goal. Fry was off his line. Seattle heads it in. And RSL's got a gift in the 8th minute. Forster brings it down for himself, turns, plays it ahead to Diogo. Diogo slots it through for Forster. Forster runs beyond everyone. Forster to the area. Forster scores! Puts it inside the left post. A poised finish. Real Salt Lake, with the shutout, they get the 2 goals. They get their first win of the year. All is well. Forster Jago finishing his chance this time after he'd struggled in some of the earlier games. So, W making everybody feel better, and now they settle into a once-a-week rhythm here, and they've got San Diego, the new expansion team, coming in Saturday night at America First Field. DJ PK.
Hashtag golf.
Joe Highsmith, the former Pepperdine Wave, barely made the cut Friday. He was right on the number. Had a great weekend, shot a 64 on Sunday, and ends up winning the Cognizant Classic by 2 strokes for his first win. Qualifies for the Masters. Meanwhile, former BYU golfer and Utah native Patrick Fishburne shot a 73 to finish tied for 48th at 7 under. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NHL.
I think we had a great stretch. We played good since we're back from the break. I think the boys had a really high compete tonight. We compete, we worked. That was not a flaw at all. I like the desire. I like the fact we were resilient. I like the fact we were engaged at a certain level. But mentally, we need a little bit more details. We need to be a little bit more engaged in those details.
Utah Hockey Club sees their 3-game win streak snap. They lose to the New Jersey Devils, second best defensive team in the NHL, holds them to a single goal. It was 1-1 going to the third, as we've seen multiple times during this stretch. Games 1-1 going to the third. Whereas before, they'd gotten the game-winning goal against Chicago, and this time they couldn't. So they end up losing 3-1. You got a little stat there on the Utah Hockey Club. 6-3 in their last 9 games, but 7 of the last 8 have been against playoff teams.
Yeah, they're 4-3.
Little measuring stick there, playing better against some of the better teams.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know that they're good enough to go on 8 of 10, that type of thing. It doesn't seem that that's where they're at. They can get 3 and lost 1. The key now is to not go and lose 3 in a row, that type of thing. Try to, after you work so hard to get to a level, don't let it slip. And then you got to get back, so you get pushed down the hill, then you got to walk back up to where you already were. And that, eventually, if you keep doing that, you're going to run out of games.
And assuming that the traditional mid-90s point total is where they have to get to the playoffs, they have to average about 1.5 points a game, which is what they've done here, winning 3 out of 4. 6 points in 4 games, 1.5 points per game. So this is the clip they have to keep playing at, assuming the teams around them, and there's 3 teams they're competing with, it's St. Louis and Vancouver and Calgary, assuming that at least one of these teams gets to the mid-90s. Somebody ought to pull it off. So 4 teams for 1 spot in all likelihood. That is what is trending, brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, will be here at 8 o'clock. Greg Wyshynski, senior NHL writer for ESPN on the NHL trade deadline, which is coming up. Should the Utah Hockey Club make a move, hold on to some of these assets, and do something in the summer? We'll talk with Greg at 9 o'clock. Coming up next, the question of the day. Could the Cougars be any hotter? We will get to that next. Stay with us.